And as our astronomer Mark Thompson explains, with the discovery of water on the moon last week, that idea is getting less far-fetched all the time.
Since man first landed on the moon, scientists have thought that the lunar surface was bone dry. But new observations from 3 different spacecraft, like the ones here at the Science Museum, have put this notion to rest. There is water on the moon. Since ancient times, the moon has been worshipped and has been thought not only to control the tides, but also our lives, so astrology would have us believe. While the surface missions to the moon of the 1960s achieved a great deal, scientifically a lot was still left unresolved. But what does the discovery of water on the surface of the moon really mean? Dr. David Williams oversees the British exploration of the moon.
The idea is to go there, try and live on the moon using local material and local water. There'll probably be some sort of greenhouse type structures for people to live inside.
So we're really looking at Eden Project style establishments.
I think Eden Project style is probably a good analogy at this stage.
Is there a new space race on where America and Russia aren't involved?
I think what there is now is an understanding that when you go into exploration you do it collectively. There's no need to have a race. Everybody's got to work together. The problem's too big for one country to solve.
Water is vital to the existence of life on Earth as we know it. It allows organic compounds to react in ways that ultimately lead to replication. It could be the means to sustain life and create it. To find enough of it, astronomer Ian Crawford says first we'll have to dig deeper.
The Moonlight project is a UK-led space mission which would drop these from lunar orbit, and they would embed themselves a few metres into the lunar surface to make measurements of the composition of the soil. A mission such as Moonlight would be absolutely ideal for determining how much water is actually present.
What use is the water on the moon?
If you break the water molecules into their constituents, you've got oxygen to breathe and you've got hydrogen as rocket fuel.
If we were to colonise the moon, we'd have to overcome 2 major issues. Firstly, getting there, and secondly, where to live once we've arrived. Britain's most famous architect, Lord Norman Foster, has put in a tender to construct a building on the moon's surface. And we already live in a world where commercial space travel is a reality.
Our plane at the moment is one of the biggest planes of its type ever built, and we could launch a spaceship within 10 to 12 years, we believe, which will be capable of getting to the moon. I think it's a seminal moment in the entire history of space, because it does open the possibility that the moon can be used as a base for both mining and commercial exploitation, and for science in the future on a long-term ongoing basis.
Looking at early maps of the moon, the dark patches on its exterior are described as seas and oceans, romanticising the dry dirt that lay beneath. Well, at least that's what we thought, for perhaps our intuition was right all along. If so, although it's been 40 years since man took his first small steps on the surface, it looks likely now that mankind could at last be ready to take that giant leap.
That's it. It proves that there is life on the moon.
Water.
As simple as that.
Yeah. Water, not
there's
life.
Water, there's fishes.
Oh, there's...
Well, they've got a koi pond up there. And the clangers, mustn't forget the clangers, of course. They're up there somewhere.
Well, how much water are we talking about, or just have we no clue at all at this point?
We don't really know. We found evidence that there is water up there, but as far as how much material, how much water really does exist, we don't know. We need more exploration to try and understand that. And of course, the Moonlight project, which we saw in the film, that is one of those projects which is going to tell us a little bit more about the quantity of water up there.
See, this is fascinating to me.
She likes
All this from a man who could not see the man's face on the moon until 2 years ago.
Until
Really?
2 years ago.
What kind of astronomer are you?
I'm a scientific one, you see. Scientific. I looked at it with a scientist's eyes. Couldn't see it.
Do we know if plants would grow up there? Because plants are governed by things called tropisms, you know, the phototropism.
Yeah.
Well, they're attracted to light, or geotropism. Roots are geotropic, they've got to go down into Earth. But how does gravity and stuff, what would they do on the moon?
Does gravity drive the roots going down, or is that just looking for food?
No, it's part of it. I mean, they've got this kind of inbuilt sort of urges to do it, and whether or not they'd feel the same urges on the moon.
Well, there is gravity there, but it's just a lot less. So I imagine perhaps the plants
they grow slower.
Would probably grow slower or shorter or perhaps taller. Don't know.
Very interesting.
Isn't it?
Best you get up there and have a look.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah, you need to...
So we're getting rid of me.
Look, like, as an astronomer, how do you feel about this? This must be a very exciting time.
It is. I mean, the Apollo missions thought that water did exist on the moon. We found stuff in the soil samples that were brought back from the moon. but we couldn't be sure they weren't contaminated from stuff here on the Earth. So finding that there definitely is water on the moon is great news. It does mean there's a chance we could not necessarily colonise, but set up some kind of lunar bases and possibly even use the moon as some kind of platform to launch off into the rest of the solar system, because we can use the hydrogen and the oxygen as rocket fuel to aid exploration.
But why would you want to leave the scenery of the Yorkshire Dales?
Well, that's a good point.
Escape, you know.
But the plot of land that I have been bought via the internet for my birthday last year, that will be worth money now then
That
on the moon.
probably actually doesn't really exist, I'm afraid to say.
Don't tell me that, Mark.
Sorry about
I have
that.
big plans for that.
You're expecting a sea view now, are you?
yeah.
15 semis were going
That's
up
it,
on the
yeah, that's right, yeah.
Exactly. Right. Thank you very much.
Oh, just finally, do you think they will find cheese there eventually? They found
There is
water.
cheese there, absolutely. Gorgonzola.
OK, right. It's Lancashire, surely.
Yeah.